Alright guys, today I'll be giving you my top 10 backwards sections on coasters I've ridden. Now before we start, I want to go over why I disappeared for like 9 or so days, maybe even 10 at this point. I had the SAT and DECA States all in like a 4-day time span, and it was a lot. I definitely wanted to get ready for those. Unfortunately, I'm not going to Orlando for ICDC this year, but it was my first year, so who knows, maybe next year. So unfortunately, not getting back to Universal or SeaWorld or anything like that next month. And of course, the SAT, it's the SAT, it's horrible. Anyways, for this video, I have a few ground rules. One, I will not include spinning coasters. So yes, on Whirlwind, there's a few really good ejector moments if you take them backwards, but those don't count. The free spins don't count either because they don't really take any turns, they don't bank at all. They feel more like flat rides. And the last one that I will not be including is my rollback on Kingda Ka. I will say if I was counting it, I would put it at second, but that being said, I've only gotten it 1 out of the close to 100 times I've ridden it. So it's not fair to put on this list, especially since most people haven't experienced it and will never experience it. So with that being said, let's get into the list. Coming in at number 10 is Expedition Everest section. It's a fun little section. You've got a few twists and turns here and there. You go through the mountain, so it's pretty dark. You hear all the noise. It's pretty loud in there, I will say. Definitely one of the louder backwards sections. It's cool how you got sort of that visual of the track being ripped apart. But that being said, in terms of forces, it's pretty weak. I know a lot of people claim it has some good forces, but unfortunately, I didn't get much. But it's still a good backwards section. Staying in Florida for number 9, we've got Icebreaker. This ride is definitely on the overrated side. I definitely don't like this as much as some people do. I think the airtime's definitely overrated. It's floater airtime for sure, and that includes the backwards section. There's a couple little airtime moments, including that Junior Scorpion tail, but it's very weak. You definitely just meekly float out of your seat, so it can't really get a higher spot on the list, especially since the launch isn't exactly strong. You go forward a little bit, but it's definitely not the strongest thing in the world. There's better backwards sections out there. Coming in at number 8 is Superman Escape from Krypton at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Now, I know this one will most likely never open again, but I still wanted to include it because a lot of people did get to ride it. This one was very underwhelming for how massive it was, for how fast that launch actually was. It was very weak. You got up to that top speed in a very long amount of time. It did not feel instantaneous like Top Thrill Dragster or Kingda Ka. You just gradually built up speed. It felt like I could build up that same amount of speed in a car in the same amount of time or a similar amount of time. It was cool going backwards on it, I will say. It was a neat visual, and then when you went up the spike, you were staring at the ground and you got a little floater there. But obviously, if you've been on this ride, you know it's very disappointing given how big it is. Coming in at number 7 is Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventures backwards section. This one's very fun. You've got some of the best theming in the world here. You've got that spike going up before you go backwards, where the bike runs out of power, and then you're about to go into Devil's Snare. It's pretty cool. The forces here aren't that good. It's just a little step up from Everest, which isn't that good. Just some weak laterals, not really any airtime, no positives. But that being said, it's still a fun section given how good the theming is. Coming in at number 6 is another highly themed family coaster, and this is Fire Chaser Express at Dollywood. This section's really cool. You start off with an amazing show scene. There's fire everywhere. You gotta get out of Charlie's shed or shack, I don't really know what it is, but you gotta get out of there one way or another, and you blast off backwards. The launch isn't too forceful, but it's fun. And then you've got a little moment of airtime actually on one of these hills. It's very weak, but still, backwards airtime is backwards airtime. There's some okay laterals, nothing too special, but it's definitely a fun section. Coming in at number 5 is all the Vekoma boomerangs, and I'm lumping all of these together because they're basically the same. They deliver insane positive Gs on that backwards vertical loop. I mean, that is why you ride a boomerang. That loop is an instant gray out for me. It's just bonkers. The backwards Cobra roll is actually surprisingly good too, and there's a really small airtime pop right before you go into the station if you're paying attention and you're in the right seat. It's very hard to tell it's there, but if you've ridden enough boomerangs like me, you can tell it's there. Overall, it's definitely a very fun and underrated backwards section. Number 4 and number 3 are definitely similar. Coming in at number 4 is Possessed's backwards section, and number 3 is Wicked Twister's backwards section. And I should say sections because, yeah, you go through this multiple times. With Possessed, you got that straight spike. You just get pure floater airtime every time on that, and it's greatness. And on Wicked Twister, you had the floater, but you also had some laterals given that twist. These are definitely fun spikes, but you also have that launch there. It's nothing too special. It's very weak. You barely notice any sort of change in momentum, but it's definitely something. You definitely feel yourself going fast. Coming in at number 2 is Invertigo's backward section. This one's very similar to the other boomerangs, except way more intense. It is actually absurd. Now, I will note that I have ridden Goliath at Six Flags New England, or formerly at Six Flags New England, but I hated the restraints at the time. I know now with my high pain tolerance, I'd probably actually like this, and this would come in at number 2, but given my experience on Goliath, I couldn't put it on the list. But Invertigo's the closest thing, and I loved it. Everything I said about the original boomerangs, just take that and amplify it. It's amazing. And coming in at number 1 by like 10 different landslides is Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. I mean, this is a contender for the best backward section in the world. This and Totatis have basically the exact same section, so those two could actually be the best. This thing is absolutely absurd. The backwards ejector hill in particular is one of the all-time great moments. You just get some of the most pure and violent ejector ever while getting thrown forward. It's pure bliss. I really wish this was built into Top Thrill 2. And then that spike is amazing as well. You get great floater all the way through it. You've also got that step up right before the spike, which doesn't give as strong of an ejector pop as that main hill, but it does give a little weak ejector pop. And then falling down the top hat, especially in the front row, is very good. You get some sustained floater there, and it's definitely not something to sleep on. Overall, no one should be surprised that this is number 1. It's pretty handily the best backward section I've experienced, and like I said, with Totatis, probably the best backward section on the planet right now. So that's going to do it for this top 10. Let me know what you guys thought of this list down in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.